another Guild workshop. Now it's my pleasure to introduce, although I don't think he really needs any introduction whatsoever, Galton Blackiston to you and his assistant Neil Alston. And Galton, as you'll be well aware, has recently produced this seafood masterpiece, Hook, Line, Sinker. And tonight he's going to be giving us the benefit of his culinary wisdom regarding sustainable seasonal seafood, British seafood. And we're very interested to hear what you've got to say, Galton.
Yeah.
So yeah, really looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Right, first time to Westminster College to do a cookery den. I've recruited quite a few students from. Can you hear me at the back? All right. Yeah. Recruited a few students from the college, and it's a fantastic college. And the young ones who they turn out generally do very, very well. Or from my experience, they do. Yes, as Mike alluded to, this came out in October. I've done previous cookery books, 4 of them, and never ventured. I always had an idea that I'd like to do a fish cookery book, but never really got round. I'm a typical chef, I haven't got time, I'm sort of not organised, all that sort of thing. Need people around me to organise me rather than me trying to organise myself. I'm all right in the kitchen, but everything else that goes on outside of the kitchen, I need pretty organising. And because we took on another business a couple of years ago, we've had Morstan Hall as well, where my wife and I started 26 years ago. And for 21 of those years, I'm very proud of the fact that we've held 1-star Michelin. Although, as I would say, I think we're cooking better than ever at the moment. I think our head chef is phenomenal. He's an ex-Long chef, and he certainly is a brilliant, brilliant chef. And so, a few years ago, literally an off-the-cuff comment, I mentioned the fact that somebody asked me would I do another Morstan. Standard reply is generally, well, never say never, but the only thing that really interests me now is fish and chips. Off the cuff comment. Literally was thinking that would kill the conversation of me having to explain why I can't do another Morstan. Well, within 3 weeks somebody said come and have a look at this property in Cromer, which is right on the coast again in Norfolk. And every single window overlooks the sea, and it had 80 seats downstairs, or it has 80 seats downstairs, 80 seats upstairs, overlooks the pier, overlooks the water obviously, and it was a bit of a no-brainer. I've never done fish and chips or anything like that before, never ventured into it, and it does make me smile because it's extraordinary. We're now, testament to how it's gone, we now have 86 full-time staff. It's incredible. It's incredible. Little old Cromer. Who would think that people would come to a fish and chip shop in Cromer? Essentially, it has the downstairs where you can eat in, seats 80, upstairs, eat in, seats 80, a takeaway, which gets absolutely hammered, an ice cream bit and all that sort of thing. So it's a great diversion because it doesn't compete with Morstan. Morstan is, for want of a word, fine. I hate the word fine dining. It's just chefs trying to cook really well. That's Morstan, but fish and chips is something, you know, the nation loves, and so we try and do it properly. So anyway, so that was the diversion. Mr. Alston is a very important cog in this wheel because he is my organiser, and is a very accomplished cook in his own right. He used to brilliant for warming your bottom.
Takes a lot of skill to cook on a
so he's the one who's around with me all the time and gets me organised, and it was Neil's hard work really how that book comes together. So it's not a one-man show or anything like it. So I'm going to do a few recipes from the book, and the first one I want to do is a crab, brown shrimp and samper tart. So what I've got to do, Mr. Alston, would you mind giving me a tart? Don't drop it, possibly. We have had some moments in our time. Well, I would have used the oven here, but it's condemned, so we have to go through here. So you have to bear with me on that. So it's so we make a savoury pastry, a short cross pastry. It's one that my mother used to make years ago. So it's flour, equal quantities lard and butter.
Yes.
Salt, an egg yolk to bind, and a little bit of milk. And you bring it together like a short cross pastry until it bends. Okay. Then we refrigerate it and we bake it blind. And this is what hopefully Mr. Olsen will come back with. In the meantime, we make a filling. We'll pop that in there. Okay. So let me just have a look at it. I was told by the lecturer, bless him, about the ovens in there. It's just how it used to remind me when we've gone to all induction in the kitchen at Morstan. We're totally electric, no gas anywhere. Which is a brilliant, lovely way of cooking. But
Where did you cook?
me, I'll tell you in a minute when I'm getting. I'll tell you now. Right, that's a great question. I never went to college or anything like it. I left school wanting to play cricket, so I had no experience of cooking or anything. Would you pop that back in for a second? As you can see, it's quite nicely evenly cooked, but I don't want it. I want the bottom cooked as well before I start putting the filling in. So yes, I left school. I was doing A levels, but soon gave that up. I'm not academic at all. And so I was taken on by Kent to play cricket. I'm from Norfolk, but we moved to Kent, and that's back in the time when Kent had quite a good cricket team. So I was taken on as a young one to play for the second team, the under-19s and all that. And it's typical of me, because whilst being all right at cricket, it's like any sport, you need to have a good level of concentration. And I'm all right for the first 20 minutes, but then my mind goes on to something else. And so I didn't make it as a cricketer. So my mum said, well, what are you any good at? You're not academic. Well, you like cooking. And so I did a market stall on the Kent Sussex borders in a market town called Rye. And every Thursday I'd take my wares to the market and sell it on a trestle table like the size of this: cakes, biscuits, pies, meringues, you name it, I made it. And it would sell out. People still love well-made, homemade produce. Sussex, WI does so well. Let me just talk about into here. So my standard mix for doing a quiche or a tart, French onion tart, a quiche, whatever, smoked haddock, whatever I'm doing, is always 3 eggs, 2 yolks. That's me. I do that. And then it's 425 of cream, not single cream. Okay. And then it's the rest of the ingredients that you would add to it. If I was being in the kitchen at Morstan, this would go for a sieve, because I don't trust the chefs who put shells in. Oh, you have to be. It's one of those things. Okay, but here I'm not going to put it through a sieve. Then the rest of the ingredients. So seasoning, sea salt. You can add fine salt if you wanted to. I prefer to use sea salt. Good grinding of black pepper. Nutmeg. This is Mr. Olsen's machine. It's very good. It contains the nutmeg in there, and you just grind it round. That wouldn't last 2 minutes at Morstan kitchen. It's incredible how we manage to break things. Well, I don't. They do. Anyway, so mix that together, and the rest of the ingredients. Now in here, don't be put off by the fact that most things that I bring, well, a lot of things that I bring, I put in backpack bags. It's a brilliant way now. It's the most hygienic way of storing things in a fridge. You also get more space, and so everything we do now is put in backpack bags, vacuum pack bags. Okay? So what's in here is 300 grams of picked, fresh, white crab meat. Okay? And these are chroma crabs. They've only just started again from the winter. Basically, if the crab fishermen can go out and the crabs are not buried under, then they'll be able to get the crabs from the box. But in the winter time, the crabs tend to go under and you don't get them. And most times the weather's too inclement for them to go out, so they tend not to go. So, and I'm only using white crab meat. Okay, for this recipe, we always use the brown. We make a fancy, in fact there's a recipe in there, for a crab chowder, which we use the brown meat for. But brown is very, very strong, obviously, and it needs to be used in moderation for certain things. In a soup or a chowder, absolutely no problem, because you're going to you're going to mask it to a certain degree with other bits and pieces, so it's not full on. But in something that you want it to be delicate of crab, then I tend to use the white meat for something like this. At home, if I'm not cooking for the public or something like that, I would perhaps use make the pureed brown crab meat and use that on the base, something like that, but not mix it through, if you know what I mean, yeah? Right, so crab meat, lot of, leave it in there for a few minutes. How's the potatoes and the roasted? Brown shrimps. Now then, King's Lynn is very good for brown shrimps. These aren't from King's Lynn, these ones particularly. I don't know where Neil's got, you maybe ask him when he comes in. But these are lovely. So fresh brown shrimps. I think the King's Lynn ones are, what do you think, are they soft? No, leaving that in. I think they're better than the Morecambe Bay ones. Now that's controversial. Everyone goes on about Morecambe Bay shrimps, but I think the King's Lynn brown shrimps are better. Parmesan, optional. It's almost adding as a seasoning, okay? And it doesn't overtake crab. So freshly grated Parmesan. It's into there. I've done that. So mix it up. Now, don't bring your tart. Yeah, go and get it now, my man, please. Like so. And then what I've got here is blanched. I know it's not in season yet. I understand that. Sampa, and this has been blanched. Okay, so this is from the French coast. Okay, make no bones about it. I wouldn't use it at work or anything like that. I wait until the season comes along in July and use Sampa then. Okay, perfect. Now you need to check your tart base, because if there are cracks in it, then what you do is use an egg yolk. Ooh, you've got one.
From 3 floors down in the branches.
Oh, so you had forgotten this?
Yes, I had.
Oh, bless you. Anyways, paint round any cracks that appear, and you have to do it while it's hot, obviously. I was so frightened when the guy in the lecturer in the kitchen said, these ovens either on really low or really high, so I was cautious. So perhaps I've had this a little bit. Hello, sir. Traffic. So I was cautious and had it on a fairly low temperature. I think it's time to put it up a little bit. No, it's fine. It's fine. That will have baked onto there now, okay? Because you've taken it straight from the oven. It's a good tip to remember and to learn. Spatula, Mr. Rost. Now, so on the base, I know I have a particular, I don't know if any of you have the time or inclination to watch Saturday Kitchen or, or James Martin's programme on ITV, but him being from Yorkshire calls it Sampire. And it's a bit of a bone of contention, because that's proper Norfolk people call it Sampa.
What do you call it?
Sampa.
Sampa.
Yeah, it's spelled S-A-M-P-H-I-R-E, so technically I suppose you might call it Sampire, but we don't. So, I'll put it in this first. So, into the tart. And it is one of those seasonal gems, and as I say, when it's in season we use it all the time. There is a bit of a bone of contention that goes on about how you should pull Sampa because you can go to the mud flats down at Blakeney or at Morstan and literally pull it up. I've always been, as a youngster, and bearing in mind as a youngster I was brought up round there, to pull it up by the root. but I realise that that won't suit everybody, and some people might. But that's what I tell you. If you go and buy it all along the coast, it's all by the route, all by the route. Yes,
Is
sir.
this sample that is flat gathered or cliff?
No, there's two types. Yeah, that's the rock samper, and the stuff which we get is on the mudflats at low tide on the mudflats. So it gets covered in the seawater when the tide comes in, and then when it ebbs out, then we can go and pick the sand up.
The cliff gathering was very dangerous.
Yeah, that might well be.
I think it was Browning who referred to samphire gatherers, dreadful trade.
Oh, really? Well, yes, that may well be the case, but yeah. Now then, this is going into the oven at about 180. Well, I'm not sure those ovens are that good at the moment. We'll see. Right, and we'll give it about half an hour. Somebody give me a reminder, please. Maybe a bit less than that. I'll just wipe the oven up, so hopefully it'll get better. And if you want it just set, okay, it's best at warm, not piping hot. I knew that would bloody happen. You just did that one just for effect, didn't you? That's why I left it on. Right, so it's very simple. It's down to the quality of your crab meat, obviously, and it's down to the quality of the other bits and pieces, the brown shrimps, the samper, all of that. But I do think you'll find it extraordinarily successful if you try it. Okay, so we're moving on now. Another thing, another seasonal beauty is sea bass. And we only use wild sea bass. It's interesting that 6 years ago when we came to Morstan, there was a defining season for sea bass, and that would be from May, the sea bass would run, and then they'd go October time. You'd get no more sea bass. Now, they seem to be all year round. Whether that's global warming, I don't know if the seas are warming up or what, but they don't go. So literally,
the populations are moving steadily north.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, where I'm in Suffolk, we probably 20 years ago we hardly ever saw a bass.
Yeah.
And if you did get one, everybody was standing.
Yeah. No, that's right. That's right.
But now we're getting bass in such profusion.
Yeah.
And especially the juveniles in the estuaries,
Yeah.
big sporting areas, and they're moving steadily north.
Yeah. No, that is right. But then years and years ago, bass was almost chucked away as a cheap fish not to use.
Exactly.
So yes, it is interesting, and it's probably if I had to have a favourite fish, it would probably be the sea bass of this size. And this has come from a 3 kilo fish, and this was caught off Weybourne Beach. Believe it or not, it was. The rest of it, the other one's being used tonight at Morstan, the other fillet. So, and it's beautiful. See how beautiful that is. Wonderful fish. And I think I'm going to show you the best way for cooking a wild sea bass, in my opinion. Just get the tongue off it. Right, so first and foremost, actually I'm going to make a sauce to go with the sea bass. Your sauces, I think when you're cooking a fish, become the most important thing. Because your fish is a gimme. And the fact that hopefully you'll have sourced really good quality of fish, all that sort of thing. So that's a gimme. But that's a bit wasteful of me, I know it. But I think your sauce has become the most important thing. So this bass has been pin boned and descaled, okay? Right, so now I'm going to talk about the sauce. So in a pan, we're sweating off a shallot, carrot, butter and a bit of mushroom. So it's the basis of a classic sauce, okay? We're going to do a champagne sauce. Wow. Have we got champagne? Oh, we have got champagne. Normally when this sauce...
With Prosecco.
Did you think the audience wanted Prosecco types? Well, I couldn't possibly say. Anyway, so you're sweating off the mushrooms, the shallot, and the carrot. And then we sort of almost glaze the pan with about half a bottle of the champagne. That depends. We'll see. You're going to hopefully taste this a bit later on. It should be all right. These are quite good, these little induction hobs. They certainly react quickly. Okay, I have an oven set at just over 200. Well, I think it's just over 200. I'm not now, I'm not sure. But hey. Let that go for a second. Then we'll add the champagne. You want my man? I did, but then I turned the oven up, so just have a little peek, Mr. Shaw's. Please feel free to ask me any questions whatsoever. There was just butter.
Just butter.
Just butter, yeah. So I'm just letting the mushrooms cook. The shallots and the carrots will cook a little bit in advance, okay? This is a standard base of a sauce that I would do for a lot of fish dishes. Right, so whilst that's going, I'm going to make a meringue. So we're going to cook the sea bass in what's called a salt meringue. And trust me with it, but you have to follow the various rules that I will tell you about it. So, it doesn't matter if you start catching this at all. That doesn't really matter. You don't. It just gives a depth to the sauce. Actually, having said that, I don't need it any more than that. Oh, there's always ways of getting out of trouble. Bit of that in there. And now I'm just going to let that reduce down so it almost becomes syrupy in consistency. Okay, like so. Mr. Austin,
Yeah.
can you get me a wooden spoon or something? Or something like that. You're not really supposed to be using wooden spoons these days. I can't be done with it. I love a wooden spoon. I don't think you can make scrambled egg unless you've got a wooden spoon.
So what should you use instead?
We have to use spatulas and things like that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Format instructions.
These. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So let that reduce down. Now I can turn it up a little bit more. And right, in here is pre-egg whites, okay, of a large egg, okay, literally pre-egg whites. Whisk attachment and whisk it. So as if you're making a conventional meringue. To it, I'm going to add almost 500 grams of salt, table salt. I know. Trust me, you'll get the first taste. And if it is too much, then just tell me, discreetly. And the rind and juice of a lemon. Okay?
If you couldn't get a bass, it wasn't available.
Yeah.
What alternative?
Right, it works extremely well with, no, you want a slightly bigger fish if you can. If you can, because I would say a salmon it will work very nicely with, a fillet of salmon. In the recipe book I tell you how to do a whole bass. So you take this bass and you present it on the table once you've broken it out with meringue. But that's a bit fiddly. I think you're probably better to have the sea bass filleted. So you have something, you need something of a size that you can work with, really. So I'd suggest, sea trout, salmon, something like it will work very nicely with a cod, something like that, very nicely. Yes, yeah. Right, and you add this as you would if you're adding sugar. How's tart, Mr. Wilson? Have you had a look lately? I'm not sure if those ovens have gone and turned off, you know. That's the trouble with doing something like this. I'm just thinking that we'll have this one here, this will work, and still on the next one. Yeah. In a steady stream, no problem at all, you aren't going to mess it up. Maybe add a little bit of lemon juice. Snapper will work quite nicely. If you can get a snapper from down south. Do you live on the Suffolk coast?
Yeah.
Do you? Whereabouts?
Well, we live in land of Framley, but I've got a post at Phoenix Ferry.
Oh, do you? Phoenix though?
Yeah.
Somebody told me I should have looked at a fish and chip shop in Phoenix though.
Yeah.
Because it's just been regenerated, hasn't it, by the pier or something?
It has down that end, yeah. But Phoenix Ferry is a tiny little fishing hamlet.
Yeah.
About 3 people.
Yeah.
And that's just home to a pub and a fish shop. Well,
No caravan sites or anything
no
like that.
caravan sites.
I like nice caravan sites. Because then people migrate and walk to caravan. Right. I just like the acidity it gives, okay? It is a flavour thing, yeah. But you aren't going to eat, and you aren't going to touch this meringue. But I think it does make a difference. I've done them before without using lemon juice, and I think, and the rind in particular. Maybe it's the rind more that imparts a little bit of flavour to the actual fish rather than the juice. Right, this is what I mean by syrupy, just like so. Once it's hit that stage, we then use fish stock. Which I've got here. And I'm using 300 mils, roughly, of white fish stock. When I say white fish stock, we also do a brown fish stock as well. Brown fish stock is achieved by roasting the bones off in an oven, and then it just gives you different types of sauces. And fish stock? Of course you could. If you haven't got fish stock, alternatives, white chicken stock, no problem at all. Absolutely no problem at all. Vegetable stock, no problem at all, actually. So yeah, definite alternatives can be used. Now,
What does it look like?
conventional meringue. Yeah, it is.
Like glossy.
Believe it or not, yes you can. It is like a meringue.
How many egg whites were in there?
There were 3 egg whites in there, but there are important rules which I'm going to tell you about in a minute or two. So make sure the whole fish is covered, completely covered. I don't mean underneath it, but I mean, so you're creating sort of like a vacuum, a blanket, so that it doesn't, so basically it steams the fish inside, okay? Having said that, when you just asked me, was there 3 egg whites in there? Oh, I think they've given, because the boys in the kitchen give me this, and they know, if I'm sure, I'll come running back and telling them so. So I wouldn't be surprised if they give me an extra one in there, just for safety's sake. Right, so you must make sure it's completely covered, so it creates that blanket. Now if you were doing this like this and you wanted to be terribly smart and all that, you could make scales on it and all that sort of thing, but actually I think you're best just doing it like this, putting it in the oven, bringing it out, let it rest. This is the other thing, you've got time to let this rest knock away you'll see me do this, the meringue, and then you have to be vigilant and make sure there's no traces of salt anywhere on the fish. Okay, trust me, it'll work. Right, Mr. Ralston, that needs to go in the oven, would you? Okay. Again, the ovens are playing very, very softly. Too softly for my liking. But hey, so I would say that sea bass will take probably about 15 minutes in a 180 oven. Okay. And then, as I say, let it rest. Meanwhile, we'll finish the sauce off. Okay. I really urge you, if you see a bass in your fish, we're very lucky where we are. We have proper fishmongers around us. I have somebody from Holt, a little market town 3 or 4 miles away from Morstan, who I've been dealing with for years, and he actually tells me what to put on rather than me come to him, which is a great way of it, because his fish is beautiful and it's expensive, but that's what fish is now. You pay the money and you get quality.
But the best sea bass get left on the back doorstep in the middle of the night.
You can't say that sort of thing. I got in terrible trouble. Right, I'm reducing that down. Once I've reduced it down, I'm then going to add cream. I'll tell you that story now. I was on Saturday Kitchen. It was a live programme on BBC One. And Tom Kerridge was presenting. And Tom's a good friend of mine. And he's a good lad, and what has happened to Tom is just extraordinary. But he's changed his life. And I was doing a wild bass dish. I was doing something, I can't remember what it was. It wasn't in the salt meringue. And he said, "Now Galton, you're using wild bass, where's that from?" I said, literally, because it is live, and you never know what's coming out of my mouth on live television. There can be carnage on there. I said, well, I get a knock on the back door, I pay cash and I don't ask questions. Well, Monday morning I had the lowest of fisheries at Morstan to sit me down, to tell me, I did say, look guys, I know it was wrong thing to say, I was only joking. It did used to happen 30 years ago, I did say that. And you still get people coming round nowadays, you still get them round, and it's really frustrating in some ways, because I'm not about to condone them on that one. That's up to them. If they want to go, they've been doing it for generations, they're going out on a boat and they catch a bass. Okay? And that's what does happen. You do pay cash at the back of the doors a lot of the time. But those fish are dead, sitting in the back, and they've still got rigor mortis, they're the most beautiful fish going. And that's not the problem why the stocks of sea bass are going down by this little bloke rowing a boat round from Clay Beach. To me, it's not the problem. But anyway, that was one of my faux pas on Saturday Kitchen. Maybe that's why I've gone to ITV. But there we go. Right, so this is reduced down about right. Okay. So really, in an ideal world, you wouldn't want to open a bottle of champagne just to make the basis of this sauce. You wouldn't want to do that. I would say you have to use champagne if you're going to call it a champagne sauce. So I would potentially use Prosecco or white wine to the basis of it. And what you do is that when you're drinking your bottle of champagne with guests or whatever, you reserve a little bit at the very end and liven the sauce up with the champagne. That's what we do. And that's how you do it.
What kind of white wine would you prefer?
I tend to, well, that's a good question, because that also will depend on what I've got open and what I haven't managed to drink. So that could be a Gewürztraminer. I don't mind Gewürztraminer. A Riesling, Did you say recent?
Recent.
Yeah, lovely.
Which is
Absolutely, because it's fragrant as well, and I quite like all of that. I don't have rules and regulations that you must have a dry white wine or whatever. I quite like the addition of something floral
Yeah.
or something like a Gewürz or a Riesling. Would be very good with it. But as I say, you're not going to open a bottle especially to make the sauce with. You're going to have the bottle to drink and just keep a little bit. That's what I would say. Once that's ready, we will then strain it into another pan, and then I add a little bit of butter to it. Okay? To just finish off a classical sauce, and then caviar. Mr. Olsen got this. I like it. I deal with a lovely company down from Exmoor, called Exmoor Caviar. And quite rightly so, Mr. Olsen, you've got beautiful black lumpfish caviar. I like that. For the benefits of the cookery demonstration, black lumpfish caviar's the way forward.
There's no right way. If I bought the proper stuff, I would have been told.
Yeah, you would have. You would have.
No, really.
Yeah, you would have been. You're right. Okay, so keep this reducing. Maybe I'll turn that down a fraction, and we'll let that go. Right, Mr. Olsen. So that's two things on the go. The tart is in the oven. Hopefully it's cooking. The next thing I want to talk about is a dish with lobster. You bring the lobster out, Mr. Olsen? Is a potato dish, which I was very fortunate. Oh, and that reminds me. The best thing about that book, and I'm not trying to sell it, I'm not a salesperson, is the fact that one of my all-time heroes, he is my all-time hero, Michel Roux Senior, has written the foreword for it. And he doesn't put his name to a lot of things. You can imagine every chef in the country would want Michel Roux to write a foreword for their book. And to have Michel Roux do that was really, really special. Anyway, many years ago actually now, we were very privileged to be asked to the waterside to celebrate 25 years of 3 stars of cooking at Michel Roux's, which is amazing. And for it, he did in a canapé style a dish from each of the 25 years. One of those dishes was essentially lobster in a baked potato with a sauce. So that's where this one has got bastardised to the rest, because it was delicious. There were several standout canapés on that night. One being, I remember, this rabbit casserole, which was just beautiful, and this one. And so I took this little thing, and he knows it when he wouldn't give me the permission to do it. I haven't totally copied it. I've added my little thing to it, but essentially that's where the basis of the recipe came from. So, you would need 1 cooked lobster.
All for lobster.
Yes, but it's too bloody big. Look at the size of that thing. Again, you have to get what you can be given from the place. This was a £3 lobster. It's too big for us to use normally. I prefer sort of a little just over 1 1/4, 1.5 pound lobsters. I'm sorry, it's still working pounds and ounces. That's an awful thing, maybe. And yeah, so what we do is we kill the lobster, obviously, and then we cook. Then we cook the claws separately to the body, because the body takes. Well, I think we did this one for about 4 minutes, and the claws for about 6 minutes. But I wouldn't be surprised if that's barely done, because it's huge. And it's not going to tend. With the thing about lobsters, that the bigger they get, the tougher they get. So that's why I prefer to have the smaller ones. But we'll see. Then we obviously would use all these: the head, the body, and the claws and everything to make a bisque or something like that. We don't throw anything away, but we do tend to roast them in the oven as well. The bones. By roasting the bones, you extract more flavour to them. So, now I need something. Have you got a rolling pin, Mr. Ross? Yes. I wonder if I should do it through there, because this is likely to fly everywhere. pop that on there. I'm just going to go and bash these out there. Talk to Mr. Alston. Actually, you can strain that sauce. Strain that one, and then put that on. I'm just going to bash this out here. I'll be back in 2 seconds.
So you have to talk amongst yourselves.
Are you one of the chefs at schools? Are you a chef at your school?
No, I'm a farmer. It's a farm in Norfolk, about 8 miles west of Norwich. I met Galton and his wife about 22 years ago. And the biggest mistake I ever made was to agree to work with him.
You have lived to regret it.
I absolutely love it. I don't work at the hotel. It's just I help him with demonstrations, get the radio and that sort of thing. And I have to say, I absolutely love it. I retired from farming only I contracted the farm out about 12 years ago. So it's brilliant. So if I say I work for him full time, I don't. I do whatever I have to do every month. And that's it.
Are you still living on the farm?
Yes, the same farmhouse where you came. In fact, we were going to move this year, but we've decided not to. We were only going to move up the yard,
Right.
but we're just going to add a little bit on it. But the same one where you came and did some filming one afternoon in the most wonderful Mercedes motor car, an old Mercedes motor car.
That's been put to rest now.
Well, you should still have it. Funny enough, last week I went to the classic car show at Essen in Germany.
Yeah.
The most wonderful old Mercedes and Porsches there. But I do remember that car very well indeed.
Yeah, it was a good car.
Yeah.
It's a 250,000 miles and then back to...
Really?
Anybody like another drink while we're just waiting for the top up?
Well, at least if the car's
Good
been
idea.
put to rest, you're still going strong, which is the main thing.
Exactly, yeah.
Yes.
Right. I couldn't melt through those knuckles. They're that hard. Oh yeah.
Anyway, we've learnt about your assistant.
Mr. Alston.
So that's been good.
Very good cook in his own right.
Yes.
He does these wonderful lavish dinner parties.
Oh, I never-
Well, we used to get them. Now I think we've got that guest list.
I knew that was coming so long.
Beautiful. Okay. Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you. Now, I should think most of you would think you probably don't need to enrich that with butter, but yes.
Yes. Why not?
Why not? So a whisk and a little bit of butter. I have to say my roots are firmly entrenched still in many ways in a lot of classical French cooking. And one of the reasons why is when we opened in 1992, we got hit. You'll probably know this. I wonder if some of you might do. Not of this particular story, of the person who came and gave us a review. We had on the same evening, we had the Egon Roney guide. Remember Egon Roney? We used to have a guide. So I remember they were in on one night. We had an AA inspector in. This is the same night without a word of a lie, could you not? And we had a gentleman called Tom Jane, who was the editor of the Good Food Guide and doubled up as a writer for the Telegraph, food writer for the Telegraph. Is Tom Jane still about? Is anybody? Yes. Anyway, well, Tom Jane arrived. I mean, we have this sort of thing where it's sort of dinner at 8 o'clock. And yes, within reason, we can mess about with timings and things like that. But Tom Jane took it upon himself, I'm sure it was deliberately, and bearing in mind this is in our first 3 months of opening, to arrive at 8:45. He arrived at this tall, younger lady and proceeded to describe the whole of the dining room, the type of people that we had in for dinner, quite loudly to his lady friend. Subsequently, I hadn't got a clue who he was, and it's probably just as right. But subsequently, we had a photographer phone up saying, "You're going to be in the Telegraph. Can we send a photographer?" Yeah, we were quite excited about that. And well, this article, the headline said, "A raspberry with your starter?" question mark. And you sort of had an idea of how this was going to go. And it really was a slating. No doubt about it. But there again, now there is a silver lining to this one. And it was a slating completely. Went through everything. And in many ways, he was quite right, because so the lady asked me where I trained. I spent a long time up in the Lake District at Miller Howe.
I was going to say,
And so John Tovey's cooking, God bless him, was very sort of dinner party-ish style, fruit and savoury mixes together and things. And that was formed the basis of a lot of my cooking. And so when this article came out, and it finalised this thing about, I was ahead of my time. I did this thing with roast potatoes, and it was lavender flavoured roast potatoes. So we used lavender from the garden to go around the roast potatoes. You see it now all the bloody time on dishes. Anyway, so, and Tom Jane's words, and it'll always stay with me. He said, "The lavender roast potatoes smelt and tasted like the drawers of a National Trust wardrobe." At the time, totally devastating. But what a good description. I have to say, I don't use a lot of lavender now. And anyway, the crux of the reason why I point this out is because it made me change my whole ethos of cooking. So once being sort of trained by John Tovey and all of that sort of thing, I changed completely overnight. I bought thank you sir, the ovens are that slow that I ain't going to cook very much in there. And I completely changed my ethos of cooking. I bought every single Michel Roux senior book, going from Gavroche to the Waterside books. I had a whole pile of them, and I just went through them and learned by trial and error in some ways the classicalness of cooking, the French classicalness of cooking. And so this is what I think now, and subsequently we've been extraordinarily fortunate with critics. And Matthew Norman twice has given us 9.75 out of 10. And Giles Corran gave us a lovely, brilliant one as well. And they all have, actually, in their own way, they all have. So you either have one, as a chef, and I still say this now to young ones, you either want to take these, if you get a bad review, you either look at it one or two ways. You either dismiss it, it's up to you, and say, they're wrong, you're right, I'll carry on doing what I'm doing. Or you think about it and think, well, am I doing something wrong? Fortunately, I took the latter way of thinking about it and changed. And yeah, so we haven't looked back really since, but cool. That was a stinging review.
all that because of Tom Jane, was it?
Tom Jane.
And Tom Jane was always a bit nutty.
Yeah, he could be, yeah, he could be. So, right, so the lobster meat, as you can see, I think, that's only just really cooked. Now, that's why I like doing it myself. That's why we as a kitchen will cook our lobsters ourselves. If you buy a cooked lobster, which most of you will probably do, and there's nothing wrong with that, I'm not about to criticise you buying a lobster. Well, as I said, Tracy and I bought it in 1992. We had a business partner at the time, who in 1999 we bought out. And yeah, we started off with 4 bedrooms. We've now got, the beauty of Morstan Hall is that you're able to always do a little bit with it, because it's in grounds, not massive grounds, but you can, for example, in 2000 and something, just after I've been on a thing called Great British Menu, such was the popularity of that particular show that things went mad, and it coincided with us getting no, it didn't coincide, we had a Michelin star before that, but it just went mad, and so we put extra bedrooms down the bottom of the garden. So we have these suites down the bottom, so we have 6 down there and 7 in the house, so 13 bedrooms. We've managed to, oh that's come on, go on, put that down.
No, it says,
Nearly leave it in my bag. Bring them. And yeah, it's gone from strength to strength. Mawson has. It's. I love it, and we do we do 7 days a week, but we don't do lunches 7 days. We'll do a lunch for private parties if they want it, but generally speaking, it's a dinner service for 7 days a week, and it's all right. It's all right. And it goes from strength to strength. And what we're doing now, this next year, is we're doing a production kitchen. I don't mean a production kitchen, I mean like a kitchen, say something like this, where we can do ideas, use it as a demonstration kitchen as well, and also use it for private parties.
A bit like a chef tip.
Exactly that. There's going to be a purpose-built one, and it's going to be all. That's hence the reason I was at Gagana, because they've shown an interest in wanting to support it. So yeah, and that's what we try and do every year, is try and have a little thing so that we can add on, not necessarily increase numbers. I'm not interested in that, but just upping the product the whole time, upping the game, sort of thing. And it seems to be all right.
Does Delia still come for Easter?
Delia doesn't come at Easter now. She's got more important things to worry about. Football, essentially. No, bless her. She's, well, they don't come now at Easter. I still see Delia on a very regular basis.
Yeah.
Very regular basis. But I can understand the fact that they don't come because Easter time is particularly tough with football. There are games going on all the time. Right, but I'm in contact with Delia the whole. I tell you, I feel so sorry for her at times, because you know she was a supporter like the rest of us, the supporters of football. But why would you do that? Why would you put your money into it? And the chances are, being in a club like Norwich, the bad times always far outweigh the good times, and that's the problem. And it's a thankless task. Right, so you carefully scrape away the meringue, which normally goes golden in colour, okay?
It still looks quite soft. Does it stay soft?
Yeah, no, that's what you want. Hopefully, what the test, Mr. Alls,
Yeah.
can we have another nickel tray to put this bass on, please? The test is to do this. Can you see how moist that is just by that? That's the beauty of it. That fish is extraordinarily moist. And so by cooking it at a very low temperature, you've achieved something completely different. Maybe that's the way forward. I just need a clean one. Huh? Did you? It wasn't this one? No? Okay. Oh, to be fair, Neil, I actually would prefer to turn it out on something like this. Right, now you have to be careful.
What made you think about doing it in a sort of wrap?
Because I've had it similarly in France. I've had a similar thing, as I say, in France, and I remember it being so delicious. Obviously, it's dependent on beautifully fresh, I've done it, don't worry, fish. Now, then you don't leave it like this, because there's salt there, there's salt there, there's salt there, there's salt there. This is the thing where you have to just be a little bit vigilant, and just whip off the very end bit. Don't go mad with it, you don't want to cut into it. I just think it's the best way of cooking it. I do, but you have to follow these, you have to follow this thing and make sure, otherwise somebody will get a mouthful of salt. And obviously that's not the way forward. That is the best way of cooking a bass. God, that's good. I don't normally shout about things I do. But that is, trust me, that is beautiful. And then you have to use a sharp knife. The sauce is now being warmed up for it. I don't want to pull it, otherwise if you go too mad at it, you hack at it and pull it all apart. Just put that on there. I hope the emphasis on this is that you can see how moist that is, and that's what you're doing with this particular dish. That's beautiful. It's cooked. It's definitely cooked. It's beautiful. The sauce is warming up. You add the caviar just before you're about to serve it. Oh, nice and coarse. Oh, my goodness, we're in business. We can all come up. Formally, you know. Help if I turn this on.
More wine, yeah.
Yes, please.
Yes. Let me just have a. I think there's one bottle left.
How you doing?
Good, good. You guys?
Yeah, good. Very good. Very good. We've just done a bit of fish. Brilliant.
Yeah, I think we're fine. Top everybody up. Enjoy, guys.
Thank you.
Okay. So you want
Right, I'm going to ask you all, because the fish has gone cold now, but you'll get the gist of it quite happily. Grab yourself a knife and fork and come and have a taste. What it will do is that they cook them on the boats quite a lot of the time, or sometimes straight off the boat, but they'll put them in for a standard thing of about 15 minutes. So technically your lobster is overcooked, but I'm a chef and you know, I understand that I'll buy a cooked lobster as easily as anybody else will buy one. But if I'm going to do something in front of you, I'll do it properly.
Trouble is they cook them in batches, don't they? Which
Yeah,
is, you know,
yeah.
understand.
What's the kindest way to
Great question.
stick it in the freezer?
I think that probably is a good way of who said that? Yeah, I think that probably is a way of doing it.
Sends them to sleep.
It does send them asleep, indeed, if it, domestically at home, but if I've got 20 lobsters to cook at Morstan, I can't put 20 lobsters in that freezer. So it's the cross at the back of the head, down that way, quick, and off we go. Right, that'll do, Mr. Lawson, I think. Bring them out, and then give them a little wipe between the teeth. Okay, so I've got the lobster meat here, and there's a generous amount of lobster meat out of that lobster. Maybe that's the way forward. Maybe I'll buy large lobsters. And forgo this occasional toughness on them.
Sometimes they'll, depending on the time of the year, they'll change the shells, won't they?
Yes, yes, absolutely. They're the time when you don't really want them, is when they're shedding the shell.
But this time of year, they're nice and full.
They're beautiful,
Yeah.
yeah, beautiful. And a lot of coral in a lot of them. And a coral is one of your chef's sort of perks that we make it into. It's this green, violently green, coral it is. But when you cook it, it goes pink. And it's the eggs from the lobster. No, it's not the eggs. What is it?
The liver.
It's the liver, yeah. But it goes pink and it's beautiful.
Yeah, so it's
and so
great
we
for
use it for
sauce,
sauces and everything like that. So, right, what we've got here, they look as though that might be burnt, but they're not. They're purple potatoes. This is where my difference is, taking it from Michel Roux, look. And I'll just get rid of that.
The fish.
Yes. Talk amongst yourselves.
Do you want to hear the rest of my life story?
Oh,
So what kind of farmer were you?
An arable farmer. I was actually brought up, my father was a farmer in Suffolk, then I moved to Norfolk, and there was a dairy herd on the farm when I moved there, and I sold it because I just was not dairy orientated. And we used to grow sugar beet, peas for bird's eye, petit pois for bird's eye, and we had to stop growing them because you know how they advertise picked and frozen,
Yeah.
and it's true.
Yeah.
But the traffic became such that we couldn't get them to the factory in time.
What's that?
Petit pois.
Oh, you're talking about your past, Mr. Austin. Very colourful past.
Yes.
Hey,
Do you want to know a bit more about it?
Are you in relation to Tony at Brockford?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Tony's father and my father were cousins.
Just don't worry. I'm teasing you.
What? Yes, over to you, Mr. Alston.
Now, for my next act.
You did not a great work for the Princess Trust.
Yes, I will. Thank you.
I haven't got great hopes about either that quiche cooking or that. I think there's something gone wrong with those ovens, but I'm not likely to worry about.
Standard demonstration. Don't worry, it didn't work, so don't worry.
Anyway, we'll see. Right, in this pan is cream, reduced, okay? To it, you would add Dijon, but for some reason Mr. Alston bought me whole grain. Hey, lemon juice again. So here.
You couldn't let it pass silently, could you?
There was quite a lot of butter actually.
There's an awful lot. Yeah, but at the end of the day, Patrick,
Yeah.
I'll tell you, that sauce at Morstan would do 30p.
Yeah.
I won't have the plate swimming in sauce. It'll 1-2 spoonfuls maximum for me. Right, so there's mustard, lemon juice, and the cream in here. Okay, Mr. Alston, have you got my other bits? Parmesan again, Parmesan. You're reducing it a bit. I won't season it until I see what the strength of the Parmesan is like. There's a lot of Parmesan in there. Now you're all going to think that. Well, that's going to totally overpower the lobster, but it won't, trust me. You might get to actually be able to taste this one. I'm not so sure about the other two. Oh well.
Make haste, you've got these potatoes all to scoop out yourself.
Those potatoes are incredible.
They are.
What variety are they?
Right, those are called violet potatoes. I can't remember where I get them from a guy in Elsham, which is in Norfolk, obviously, and they're last season's ones actually. But we're waiting for the new season's ones to come around. But they are quite good, and they're actually. I think they take this dish and make it really, really nice because of the colour as much as anything else. And at the end of the day, we eat with our eyes before we actually do eat. So I'm just going to let that reduce a little bit while I scoop out the flesh. Well, it's baked potato, and I'll do you one of each of these because I've got a lot of lobster, and hopefully you'll be able to try it. Now then, to that sauce, which is reduced enough now, literally all I add is whisk in 3 egg yolks, just enriches it in a minute. Somebody asked me something, I don't like this.
So
This is the
going
thing.
back to John Toby,
Yeah.
you always started his meals at 8 o'clock,
Yeah.
precisely, wasn't
Yeah.
it? And it was theatre. So
Yeah.
is that what you do at Morstan?
Yeah, we do. We do 7.15 for 8, and we do what ends up being an 8-course menu now. But we don't put 7 vegetables around the plate or anything like that. We have
And have all the
designated-
sherrocks. You have
No sherrocks. It was very good in its day, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Is it still with us?
Yes, he's in this place. I get the right. Now it's a good because I once a year get extraordinary faxes from John Toby. Nobody ever sends a fax nowadays, do they? But John Toby does. So I get these extraordinary faxes from him, telling me that he's seen something that was appeared on television from years ago or something.
Does it still live in Cape Town?
Yes, in a retirement village in Cape Town.
Yeah.
Because he was very friendly with Julian Smith.
That's well, they fell out.
Oh,
Did they? Oh, Carlton, please.
No, I can't send you more than that. Yeah, no, they fell out over football, believe it or not.
I'm a Norwich supporter.
Well, there we are, yeah. And he put some money into it, and obviously I would imagine that he thought he was going to get a return on that.
Oh gosh.
The football being the way it is, no, not at Norwich in any case. So, yeah.
So how did you go from market stall in Rye to Morstan?
Right, so my mum said, you're quite good at cooking, and so I did market stall. Mr. Alston, by the way, will you just whisk those egg yolks into that sauce, please? Yeah. Said they went and stayed up in the Lake District and got speaking with John Toby, and he happened to say, as Sod's Law, he was looking for a young one to train in the kitchen. in the pastry, and that's how I got the job, really. Literally from that.
They left you there.
And so I remember, I mean, I'd never been to the Lake District before, ever. And so it was quite a shocking thing. Is that for this, Mr. Dawson? What is it for?
For the latest.
Is that where you met Tracy?
Yes, I met my wife up there. I'll never forget the interview with John Tovey, because I'd had it drilled into me that I should recite some of my pastry things that I do on the market stall. And the first question literally he asked me was, can I tell him what a short crust pastry recipe is? And I could. And bearing in mind I was 17 when I went up there. And so, yeah, and on that basis I got the job. Yes, it gives him. And the rest is history as such. Great times, and that was when it was quite an iconic place to work at. It's interesting that I haven't been back to the Lake District since the day I left. And that's not because I haven't wanted to, it's purely because you get so engrossed in what you're doing that, and it's only now that I have managed to go back, and the places that weren't so good back in those days are now the places that are very good now, and it's happily interesting to see how it all moves around and turns around. Okay, so you take all the flesh out of these potatoes. Do you want me to do a few more? Right. And then I would push them through a sieve, because I would do, because if in doubt I'll push anything through a sieve. But I'm not sure you would do it at home, so I'm not going to on this occasion. I'll put them on the top there.
Standard, you always push everything.
I do, but the bloody oven isn't working correctly, so I'm worried that there would be a problem to push through the sieve. Pardon? You go and have a look at those ovens in there. Pardon? Yes, but it's not working. I've got them at 275. No, this was supposed to be the one which I was supposed to be using, but that's condemned. Look, I only go where I'm told. Yes, sir, perfect. Okay, so back onto here. So you add a bit of butter. Okay, I think it is working, but it's just not working very well. Well, there are lessons to be learned when you come and do a demonstration like this. I agree that I should bring a thermometer with me, and I should insist and be very prima donna. I shouldn't say, if I'm going to do a demo, I want my ovens working. But I didn't. Anyway, right, whilst the butter is being melted into the potatoes, season it as well. Again, sea salt, a little bit of black pepper.
What sea salt do you use?
Malden is the one I use, but there are so many out there now which are so good as well. But I've always used sort of Malden sea salt, so I'll stick with it.
Have you tried the smoked one?
Yeah, it's lovely. It's lovely. Yeah, very good sea salt. La Rochelle, finer sea salt. Lovely.
Really good.
Beautiful. Right, so you end up like this. So this is going to be changing this dish all the time to a crushed potato rather than a mash.
Yeah.
Because I didn't put it through a sieve. Then what I do is I'm going to put these into the fryer, just to crispen them up a little bit. Okay? Don't leave them in too long, but it just produces a very crisp potato. That's what I'm looking for. Can I have a tray, Mr. Austin? Yep. To put these on. And some kitchen roll. Perfect. Lovely. There's the potato. Trust me, that'll taste really good. Sauce back on. Lobster in. A few minutes. And then finally, believe it or not, I'm going to add some basil to this. It works really well. That's another twist that takes it from being a Michel Rouge recipe. But it works. Well, you'll be able to tell me, won't you? And then literally all we do is you want to put some mashed potato into these straws, make sure you put a decent amount in. Because the more mash you put in, the less lobster. No, not.
So how long did you stay with the house for?
I was there for 10 years.
Brilliant.
Then I went travelling and cooked in South Africa, cooked in New York, cooked at the Gavroche, because I was obsessed then, well, even before Mawson Hall with the Roos. I've always been obsessed with it. I'm very lucky now. I go to the Roos Scholarships, which was on last Monday,
I saw it.
and I just think that's brilliant. Brilliant. My head chef entered the competition, didn't get to win it or anything like it. And when I look at the intricacy of what these boys and girls have to do, it's phenomenal. What's the matter?
And where did you work in New York?
I worked at a place called the Pierre, Union League Club, Galton Bar Grill, those places, yeah. With real eye openers, actually.
In what way?
Just different. One big hotel, being the Pierre.
Yeah.
Galton Bar Grill, doing bits and pieces which I hadn't seen before. And me being me, I didn't take it in like I should have done, because then I wouldn't have had the differences at early doors with the food critics and things like that. Yeah, just phenomenal places. Right, this is coming along nicely. This is the thing, when I do a lot of cooking demonstrations now. You didn't bring a load of spoons, did you?
No? Right, you get it.
No, that's quite all right. You carry on. And I do cookery demonstrations at Mawson, and they're in the kitchen. So we have 22 people sitting in the kitchen like this, and they're stacked in there. And years ago when I did them, they were quite raucous affairs. Nobody would take a blind bit of notice of what I did. You'd have a good lunch and a glass of wine or two and off you'd go. Now, as you guys are doing, people actually begin to listen to what I'm talking about. It's quite opposite. But yeah. Okay, then they need to go on a metal tray, Mr. Wilson. Then they need to go back into an oven, and then we'll bring them out, put the sauce on, and we'll serve them. Have we got enough there for everyone?
If you keep yapping on, I can't count.
Add your basil towards the end. Okay.
Where did the lobster go?
Lobster's gone in here.
That's in the sauce.
Yeah, that's gone in there.
And in the
Yeah.
potato shells.
The potato shells is the potato, which I'd normally sieve. And as Neil nicely pointed out, I haven't done this time. Right. Meanwhile, I'm just going to go and have a look at that sea bass. See if it's
Well,
good.
you want to hear some more about my life story?
Yes, carry on. So it was the petit pois you think.
How long have you lived in Suffolk?
Well, apart from bouts of university and things all my life.
Oh, right, 'cause
Yeah.
I was born in Leicester.
Oh, were you? Right, yeah, well, we're East Suffolk, really. I was Felixstowe.
You're one of them.
Yeah.
Oh, well, they're both at 275 now. Anyway, they'll get something out from at the end, don't worry. Right. Now, so these are going to go back in the oven. When they're a little bit hotter than they are now, they'll come out. I'll put some sauce on, hand it round very, very informally, and please don't take me to the cleaners with health and safety, health and all of that sort of thing, please. Because it isn't the way I should do it. But if you want to try it, feel free, you must try it. Now, moving swiftly on, I'm going to talk about cod with miso sauce. Have you got recipes? You haven't, have you? Oh, that means you have to buy the book. I thought you'd got, no, sorry. Right. Again, a sauce to go with the cod. And it's going to be a miso sauce. And I love this sauce because it's something slightly different from me. But it's beautiful. Pop those in the oven, Mr. Ross. Put it in the same oven that the quiche is in, because that one is the hotter one. Right. Let me just get myself tidied up. Okay, in this pan is 1 onion, a little bit of thyme, and some butter sweated in. Okay? So again, it's the same ethos of classical sauce making. Mushrooms. Once the onion is soft, we add the mushrooms. I've finished with all this. I'm just waiting for it to get up to temperature. And then we add miso paste. So this is obviously the miso paste that we'll use. And then we add the fish stock to it, and again cream, tasting it all the time to produce a miso flavoured sauce. I sometimes add a little bit of black squid in if I'm being particularly, well, because it just produces a very black sauce, and we don't go mad with it. I do know nowadays not to go mad with things and overdose on it, but I'm doing it more for a colour effect and a flavour effect on that one, because just the black against the white works really well.
How many sessions do you work in that Galton approximately? Is that cheeky?
No, it's not cheeky at all. I would like to think I'm there Friday and Saturday and a Monday and Tuesday without fail. That sometimes isn't always the case, because one does get pulled, because I want to do it. I've got such a strong team in that kitchen, and my head chef is brilliant, and he actually wants the responsibility of it. And I do see more my role more and more as an ambassadorial role as such, spreading the word and things. And if I've got a book to sell, then I'll try and sell it and all that sort of thing. But I love the buzz of the kitchen. Every day that I'm in there, I will without doubt cook breakfast, because it's just something that has been bred into me from years and years of cooking, in that you can give somebody the most wonderful meal the night before, but if you come down and you do rubbery scrambled eggs or something like that, then they forget that meal the night before and then remember the terrible scrambled eggs. So I love, nobody does breakfast quite like me yet, I would say. They may well disagree with you, the kitchen might, but I think I do the best breakfast. And I think it's so important, so important. And those are all things that have been ingrained in me from my days back at Millhouse and before that. They really are. Okay.
So is it an all meal?
Funny you should ask that. I've had a lady who's been a head chef for donkey's years, Sammy, who left to start a family and hasn't returned, but the door is always open for Sam. But it is at the moment all now, but I don't think you saw the little girl from college come in earlier on. There's a little girl that came to settle over in college. She's been with us for the last 6 months and now returned back to college. So, I mean, the girls are totally open and like girls because they don't give me as much back chat as blokes do. So, yeah. Miso. Goes into it. Along with fish stock as well. Have we got the fish stock, Mr. Ross? Yeah, and we've got now 12 in the kitchen. So, but it's always busy because every single thing is made from the kitchen. So whether it be the marmalade in the morning or whether it be the breads in the morning to the jam and afternoon tea, it all comes out and homemade from the kitchen. There's not many places that still do that. I mean, I'm amazed at some of the places in London who don't make their own bread. Amazed at it. but there we are. Each their own.
Where do you get your miso from? You get it somewhere special?
Yeast.
Miso.
Oh, miso. Oh, there's so many now specialist suppliers that we deal with. Yeah, we get all sorts of things.
So they quite different.
Yes. We get it from a company who come from all the way up north, actually, but they supply us with miso. And there's various, obviously, types of miso paste that you can use. This is the one I tend to like.
That was quite a lot of miso.
Yeah, it was quite a bit into there. Yeah.
The saltiness.
Yeah, no, I'm aware of that one. I'll just have a little taste. Now you put doubt in my mind. Just at this stage. No, that's fine. That's fine. That's going to have butter and it's going to have cream added, so that's fine. Right, so let that reduce again. Then it's going to have the cream added to it, and then again the butter added to it. Strain it, and it's going to be for the sauce. In the meantime, bring me the cod, Mr. Wilson. Please. We had a real privilege last year. I generally pick one charity a year because we get inundated. Often ask things to be asked to help with charities. And last year, I was asked to get a group of chefs together to cook at Houghton Hall for East Anglian Children's Hospices, which is a brilliant charity, and it's headed up by the Duchess of Cambridge. And so we did a night there.
Otherwise known as Kate. That's coming.
And so they asked me to get a team of chefs, and so I rang a few friends and all of that sort of thing. And yes, every single chef said yes, and it was Tom Kerridge, Sat Baines, Claude Bosey, Mark Edwards from Nobu, James Martin, and myself, and we cooked this dinner for him. And it's extraordinary. It's one of the highlights of my career because they were brilliant. The Royals too, William and Kate, were fantastic with us. We had a real laugh with them. A real laugh. They came and spent 20 minutes in the kitchen with us. Real laughing and joking. And it was just an extraordinary thing, and it raised an awful lot of money, is the most important thing. But it was just such a privilege to cook for them, and all the boys did it for, obviously for nothing, but for the fact that it was going to go to a worthwhile cause. Anyway, I've digressed massively. I don't even know where that came from. But anyway, cod. Right, sustainable cod, okay? When in season, I'll buy scree cod. Love it, absolutely love it. But the season has just come to the end. So scree cod isn't really very easily available from Scandinavian, but beautiful cod. But this is local cod. It's beautiful. What I do with it is something very chefy, which you don't have to do at all at home. But interestingly enough, I was asked to go and look around Gaggenau Kitchens in London. They have a showroom, and in their domestic kitchen, this is how cooking's changing. They had ovens, and on the bottom drawer was a backpack. Okay. So people at home are beginning to embrace the fact that you can backpack and do things like that at home, which is great, actually. So what I've done with this, I had the cod fillet come in earlier on, and I had to get it done earlier on because the lecturer who was looking after us has gone, and so he was the only one available to get the backpack done. So what I've done is to make it into 6 fillets, a knob of butter on the top, a light seasoning on it, and it goes into this at 55 degrees for about 10 minutes. You have it. This is what we do. It does that. You just put something on top so it goes on. Right, perfect. Thank you, Mr. Ross. How's that? Is the fish colouring at all? I don't think it is. That's my worry about it, Mr. Ross. Anyway. Green. I should have shown you some other bits and pieces because actually these are all I'm sort of introducing you to heavily creamed sauces. Hey, I'll make no excuse about that. They do taste lovely. Right, let's go back to this. Let's just warm this up again. Out of a spoon. Go. And we'll serve them.
So where does scray come from? Is it Norwegian? So you can only guess it. Is it only called scray because it comes from Norway?
It's a Norwegian marketing fish. It's only a percent of the fish that qualify for scray. And it's a population of cod that migrates from the Barents Sea down to the Lofoten Islands.
You see,
For this very, very short period of time.
that's why I need somebody like you, sir,
And market out scray.
helping me. That's beautiful. Anybody not want this?
No such luck.
It's going to make you're going to make a mess of it. So don't blame me, please. It's a taste of it. Right. So that cod goes in. That will take 10 minutes.
So you don't know originally was famous for its blackened cod.
Yes, it's famous for its blackened cod.
So
Yeah.
that's a type of cod that was.
No. Well, I thought it was. I thought it. I don't think that's cooked, Mr. Well, just leave it out and let's have a look. Normally it goes golden, which is sort of signifying to me that oven isn't working. I thought the blackened cod aspect was the fact that they marinate it in miso,
Yes.
a black miso. But I could be wrong on that. He's very protective over ever divulging exactly what happens with it. Mark is, quite rightly so. It's like, has anybody eaten at a place called Hedoni? Hedoni, little tiny restaurant in London? Beautiful. The best puff pastry I've ever tasted. Have you got a cold, madam? Oh, I see.
I think she's going to wipe her chin.
Oh, why didn't you tell me earlier?
I think also the black cod is a particular species of cod.
You do think it is a
Yes,
particular
and I
species?
bought one once and it was £65.
Was it? So it had black skin?
It did, but it was a dark fish. And
Yeah.
I've had it at Nordu.
But it's still a white cod
It's
flesh.
still a white cod
Yeah.
flesh. And it's sort of terribly silky in texture and everything. It was lovely.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't want to spend £65 every week of the year. It was very nice, but it is a particular type of fish.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
But not a native fish.
No, it's not.
No. You're going to make a hell of a mess of this.
So you flour, tissue.
If you hadn't have filled the thing so much with mashed potato, Mr. Austin, would have been all right.
I knew there'd be a reason or something. I don't know.
We were waiting for that.
Yes, exactly.
Are you handing out wet wipes as well?
I'm just giving you a flavour of what happened at the waterside. Yeah, turn that down, Mr. Ross, will you? Yeah. I think you're quite... was this exactly enough or is this more than enough?
I think it was one for me, but not for you.
Thank you.
But it doesn't matter, because you know you won't stop at McDonald's on the way home.
It's all
I pointed it out on the way up. He said, okay, we'll stop on the way home.
one of my guilty pleasures. Not a McDonald's, it's McFlurry's I like, which is the ice cream. No, it isn't. I'll tell you what my guilty pleasure is actually, food-wise, and that's, wait for it, and because I have been poorly over the winter time with colds and things like that, Heinz tomato soup. That's my What's wrong with Heinz tomato? Oh, you like it?
Oh, I love it. It's floury, disgusting. You're feeling under the weather. A tin of...
Yeah. I agree with you. I didn't want anything with chunks in it, bits in it.
He actually called in unexpectedly the other week, and I was having lunch, which was hand cream butter seafood. Only worse, I was eating out of the saucepan with bread done in. Absolutely lovely.
Right, see how you get on with that. Let me just wash my hands. I think you'll quite like that. Will you pass those round, Miss Ross? Yeah. If you may, please don't have a go at me if you make a mess of it. This is very impromptu. I think you'll quite like it. Okay. Now, whilst we're doing that, I'm just going to saute off some lettuce to go with this cod dish. It'll be touch and go as to whether this is cooked, but shall we have a look? Shall I leave it in?
After a napkin in readiness.
Throw it in the water bath.
Yeah. It's okay, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's okay. Right. Okay. Right, we're just going to quickly fry off some lettuce, which I think Little Jen goes particularly well with this. Oh, that's the reason why, because that doesn't bloody work on that thing. That's why Neil gave me that. He's not stupid, actually. He's a very, very competent chef. Nothing. It's okay, isn't it? And you can see how flexible that sauce could actually be. You could put that with a piece of chicken, if you want so wish. You could use it with cod, you could use it with anything. Actually. It's quite nice, isn't it? It makes you want to have another one, doesn't it?
For an awful lot of parmesan.
Yes. Yeah, no, you know there's cheese in there, but I tell you what you could change, if you found it too parmesan-y, and I did taste it and I did think to myself, actually, I did think to myself I would normally just pull a little bit of that out and not give it quite so much. I tell you what is very nice is, it's a bloody Swiss cheese.
Gruyere.
Gruyere. Beautiful. Yeah, beautiful. Right.
Two things are impossible. Too much parmesan and too much wine. Not possible.
I couldn't hear that. So, say that again. So was it okay?
Oh, yeah, no. I said, you said we have too much parmesan.
Yeah.
And I said, too much parmesan is impossible.
Ah, right. Gotcha. Yes. Lovely. Well, I am a big fan. Okay, so this doesn't take long to cook. You want to wilt it like so. And you want to keep a bit of a stalk on it. And then this also we need another metal tray for this to go in. Yep. Touch butter on that. So you want it so it wilts down like that. And it doesn't take a lot of cooking. Right, you season it. In the meantime, Neil has to have a serious lie down when he finishes with me. Can we have a sip, Mr. Rost? Thank you, sir. Has that cod had 10 minutes?
Yeah.
I'll keep it in the backpack bag until I want it. I can tell that's just perfect. It's a different texture of fish in the fact that it's soft, but it's just cooked. That's what appeals to me about this particular dish. Thank you, sir. Pass the sauce again. if you use a ladle, it takes up the back, the contour of the sieve much better. The quiche is almost there, actually, believe it or not.
I've been thinking about that.
Okay.
I've been thinking about that.
Again, this is what I spend most of my time doing because we have a pass at the restaurant, you know, where all the food goes out and we do 4 plates at a time every time. And so I have a bowl full of spoons. Continuously taste the whole time. To me that needs a little bit of lemon juice to liven it up, but it's certainly perfect, really. A little bit of butter added to it. What I want to talk about is this now, and this, believe it or not, this slightly brown puree is shallot. This came out of a classic mistake in the kitchen. When they're so frying off shallots and doing a whole pan full, well, they burnt them, for want of a word. They caught them badly on the back bottom. And we literally, and this is, I'll never forget it, because I looked at all these shallots and they'd literally done a whole bag and a bit of shallots. And in Greg's eyes, the head chef, that was ruined. Ruined! And you can imagine, expletives come out and all that sort of thing. And I look at it and I said, are you sure there's nothing we can do with it? I can't stand this wastage. And and it was all browned, very browned. And so we liquidized it up, added a bit of cream and added a bit of butter. And we ended up getting this extraordinary caramelised shallot puree, which has hence given way to a caramelised celeriac puree, a black apple puree, where we literally burn them to cinders and make a puree out of it. It's delicious, trust me, it works. And it's just, yeah, really lovely. And this, but what has happened is you don't get bitterness at all with it, at all, but you get this real depth of flavour. Oh, it's delicious, that is. Really delicious. Now,
It's like when you do your child's television programs, this is what you do when that happens.
yes, absolutely. Now then, Mr. Alston, can you give me a plate?
Yes.
I've got 6 cod fillets. That really needs to go in the oven. Sorry, sir. I'll put it. You warm those up. I think the marriage between the shallots, the cod, the lettuce, the crisp, the silk bite with the lettuce, and the miso is an extremely good mix.
I suppose it's a bit like the Chinese wrapping lettuce.
Yes.
in-
Yeah. Well, I suppose it. Yeah, you're thinking a bit deeper than us chefs, I think.
I'm sure not.
Us chefs think, well, actually, when we're trying things,
You've got leftover lettuce to use on.
that sort of thing. But I know I'm a big fan of frying lettuce. I think it works beautifully. As in, you know, that classic lettuce, peas, and français. Yeah. It's lovely. Over most things in season, it's lovely. So this would be how I'd serve the dish. Yeah. I'm not into smears, I'm not into all that sort of nonsense. Take a piece of cod. Whoa, it's very delicate. Can you just bring me a lettuce out from, yeah. It's an interesting challenge cooking with one little hot top and 2 ovens that don't work. Hey ho. Ooh, thank you. So the way you can tell that's cooked. So just cooked. It's not going to burn your mouth when you eat it, because if it did that, the cod's overcooked. What I will do is make sure the sauce is hot. on that. I'm all set on that. All I need is a spoon. Clean spoon. And this is a dish. Well, we finish this off with, we do this dish as a fish course, and we just do some little fine potato crisps to go on the top. It's delicious. It's just a combination of ingredients that really work. You can see what I mean by, when I say a sauce, I don't go mad. There's quite a lot of sauce on there, but that's maximum 3 teaspoons. I think that's it, that dish there just works perfectly. So that's
That's
it.
the miso sauce.
That's a miso sauce. It's on the point of seasoning. It is on the point of seasoning, but it is delicious. I'm just waiting to see if my fish is working. So well, that would be a nice interlude to come and taste this fish. Hopefully I've given you some ideas of simple things to cook.